Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard, and I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts based on my experience with four types of negative entities. You can call them demons, you can call them whatever you like. So, my background, in case you're not familiar with me, is that I spent years as an exorcist in my young adulthood. Um, wasn't something like I was, it wasn't like a profession or a calling or anything like that. It was more like it just happened to me. And the first time I did it was when I was, I had to have been 15. I was 15 years of age, and my friend and I were walking around what was an old church at night, but it turned out that that church was built on top of a Native American burial ground, and that church always had weird stuff was going on there. Now it was a church, but it was built in the 1920s, and it was built on a cliff overlooking the ocean, and it was built originally by some really rich guy. I wish I could remember the guy's name. Rossler, I think his name was. His last name was Rossler. So at that where I lived, which was in Palos Verdes Peninsula, near, if you know any place, if you know that place at all, Malaga Cove, right near where Redondo Beach hits the Palos Verdes Peninsula. If you've ever seen that big old building right there on the edge of the cliff, that is now called the Neighborhood Church. But it was originally built in the 20s, and it was this huge palatial mansion estate, and the guy had a pier, so you could drive your boat up to it, and then he had built all these caves into the side of the thing. It was almost like Disneyland. It was just really intense and weird. And so when I was in high school, in junior high, actually, I would go down there and we would smoke cigarettes and drink beer and smoke weed and do all that nasty stuff that them damn kids aren't supposed to do. But the weird thing is whenever I was on that place, there were certain places where you were sure somebody was behind you and they were going to push you off the cliff. Constantly looking over your shoulder like that. And in the caves, like the cave, you'd go down in the caves and we'd smoke cigarettes and smoke pot. And, there was like two entrances to these little caves. By cave, I don't mean like huge cavern. It's just like somebody had built like something that looks like a cave, like a grotto. And there was a couple of these, all up and down. And anyway, and I remember being, in those caves and feeling like just something wasn't right there. And feeling like, again, just standing on the edge of the cliff and feeling like somebody was going to push you off at any second. Somebody was going to push you off the cliff. So went down there one day with my friend, and we were doing that same thing. We were smoking cigarettes and skateboarding around and all that. And it was at night. It was dark. And there was nobody there. And the lights inside the church were going on and off, on and off. And we could hear noise. It sounded like there was a party going on or there was people or something. But it didn't make any sense. And it was really freaking me out because there wasn't any cars there. So there couldn't have been it just didn't make any sense. And so I wanted to get out of there. But my friend decided that he wanted to find out what was going on. So he went up to the front door of the church, and these two big, huge front doors. I mean, it was just like it was straight out of some kind of a, gothic Halloween, horror movie. And he goes to put his hand up to, to listen in the door. And I'm watching him from the side, and I can see he's not touching the door. His hand is probably this far away from the door. And something from the inside of that door pushed on the door. Like somebody tried to open the door. It was two double doors, and they went boom. They didn't open, but it was really loud. I took off running. I thought, some security guard was going to come out or something like that. And I turned around, and my friend was still there, frozen. I won't get into all that. I've got a whole video about all that. But turns out that something jumped inside of him. That what came through that door was a entity was punching its way through that door and jumping inside of him. And I won't get into all that. I've done videos about that already, but that was my first exorcism. And I had learned about that. For some reason, I was into that, and I had studied it, and I knew how to do it, from the Christian tradition, in Jesus' name, Satan, I command you, blah, blah, blah. And that exorcism was my first one, and it was the most intense. Because what ended up happening was that he started going crazy. He started like losing it. And he started talking like somebody who was schizophrenic. And he was talking about the voice inside of him and what it was telling him to do. And, that it was going to push me off the cliff or kill me or something like that. And it was just getting weird. And he was like getting like pasty white, and he wasn't making any sense. And I said, oh, that's it. We're going to take care of this. So I took him back to my house, and he didn't want to go in the house. He was afraid. And then got in there, and he said, no, I'm fine, everything's fine. We started playing music, back when you had a record player. You remember those things where you actually had the stereo with the needle and I had one of those. And so I put on some music, and I was dancing around and doing this, and every time I did this, he got like jumpy and weird, and I said, okay, we got to deal with this. So I started doing an exorcism on him, and what I did was I laid him down on the bed, and I went like this, and I said, I'm looking through your eyes into the eyes of the spirit inside of you. And I started doing the whole in Jesus' name, blah, blah, blah. And his head slumped down, and I thought that he was praying or something like that, but his head slumped down, and then he started making, like, jerking around and making these really like guttural, like animal noises, that kind of stuff. I thought he was scared, so I went to go put my hand on his chest to say, it's okay, it's just me, right? Thinking that the demon was scaring him or something. And when I did that, I put my hand on his chest, he raised his head up, and he wasn't him anymore. It wasn't that he looked different. I mean, his entire face had completely changed. His skin had turned whiter than this. Not just like white, like pale, but just completely, totally white. His eyes had completely changed, and he had no pupils left. It was just red. It wasn't bloodshot. It was just like the color red. His eyes were there. And he was like that. And so then I started really doing the whole thing, and then whatever it was looking past me at something behind me, and was really frightened of that, and was trying to get away from my hand and everything, and it was really scary. And then, anyway, so that took a little while, and he finally came back, and he told me his whole experience, which I've shared about in other videos. I won't get into that here, but that was my first experience with exorcism, and it wasn't something I chose to do, but later on I became really hardcore born-again Christian, and I went to a Bible college, and I was going to become an evangelist, and blah, blah, blah. And early on, what would happen is that not everywhere, but just about everywhere that I went, there was somebody that needed an exorcism. And there was times when people would walk up to me. I'd be walking down the street. Here I'm an 18-year-old kid, and people are walking up to me saying, there's something inside of me, and I know you can help. And I'd have to do these exorcisms, same kind of thing. Everything that you saw in The Exorcist, except for maybe, like levitating up, to the ceiling, or your head spinning around. Everything else I experienced, especially like the projectile vomiting. Oh my God, that was horrible. And the smells, and the changes in voice, and the voices would change, and they would, speak in other languages, and the vile stuff that would come out of their mouths, the things that they would say. And I shared some experiences, which I'm sure I'll talk about. I'll wait for you guys to ask some questions before I get into it. But I shared, I've shared why I got out of it, and what I've learned about demons since then, and why I no longer do exorcisms. And anyway, so that's me qualifying. That's my experience. I'm not just talking about what this isn't just me sharing what's been written about some. I'm talking from experience here about these different kinds of entities. So it's possible that that first exorcism wasn't your typical demon. It's possible that that first exorcism was more of a being of another dimension. I'll talk about that. That's what we would get in like more like trolls, those kinds of things. So what are the four types? As I've said here, let me just double check. This thing always says that there's only like one or two people watching, and I get discouraged. But let's refresh the page here to see how many people are actually watching. Excuse me. Oh wow, a whopping 8. So if you come on here and you're just gonna dump your opinion, I'll discard you and delete you. But I really just want to answer questions if you have any. All right. So what are the four types? Isn't exhaustive, but these are four types that I'm aware of. They are what you would call demons, and then trolls, which I'm putting under the heading of more of nature spirits, poltergeists, and ghosts. And you've noticed that I've made a difference between poltergeists and ghosts. Those are two different types of entities. So let's first talk about demons. Now, demons are what the average person would call an evil spirit. And the way demons have presented themselves, they're all pretty much the same in the way that they function, in that they're very hostile, they're very aggressive, and they like to possess humans, and they like to harass humans. And the main thing that demons do is they attack your self-esteem. They attack your feeling of self-love and safety. And they will always, the way you know a demon is that it tries to attack your essence, who you are. Now, if you happen to be a born-again Christian, your experience is that the demon is going to try and destroy your faith in Jesus and tell you same kinds of things. You're worthless. And do all things. And demons can do physical things to you, like physically. There are people who get possessed and they can't. They're getting twisted up in knots, and the demons will do all kinds of things to their body and harm them physically, and wounds will appear out of nowhere, and writing, and all this kind of stuff. So that's pretty much straight across the board what a demon is. Now, if you happen to be of a different religion, the demon is going to express itself in blaspheming that religion. So that's one thing that I found, that demons can go and can whatever your religious or spiritual belief is, they will attack that. But what they're really attacking is your sense of self. And so, it doesn't really matter what religion you use to cast the demons out, because what they're really responding to is you connecting to your spiritual identity, your divine essence. If you happen to be, say, a Christian, and that's how you believe you connect to your soul, that's going to be, Jesus will be the symbol through which you can drive the demon out, because by doing it, you're double downing on your spiritual essence, on your soul essence. If you happen to be Buddhist, it'll be Buddha. If it happens, if it's Rama, if you're Hindu, whatever the hell it is, Narasimha. It all comes back to whatever it is that connects you to your feeling of being connected to the divine. And every single demon that I encountered, and except for the first one, every single demon that I encountered, the name of that demon corresponded with a human emotional psychological failing. Fear, hatred, resentment, lust, greed. And if you look, like, the Hindu tradition is great. Like, if you read the the Chandi path. There's a whole religious text on the god Chamundi, and that when it talks about the different demons that Chamundi and Kali fight against, when you translate, they all come down to the essence, something along those lines. And in fact, the main pair of demons that Chamundi fights is like pride and self-devaluation. So I forget the exact words, but the two essences of I'm everything, I'm nothing. And so that's very telling. That's actually quite accurate in how you deal with it. So anyway, those are demons. Trolls, I've used the word trolls because, being my ethnic background, that's the belief of the negative earth spirits were, at least one classification was trolls. And trolls were part of the giants. Now, the giants in Norse mythology are the beings that are completely wrapped up in narcissism. They're only wrapped up in themselves. They have no empathy for anybody else. There's all kinds of giants. So just because something is a giant doesn't mean that it's negative. The planet Earth is a giantess. Earth. That's the Jord, the deity of Earth. The name Earth, that's her name, Earth. And she is a giantess, but she is our mother. So that's not a negative giant at all. Thor is actually half giant and half god. And so according to the mythology, he's the son of Odin and the son of Mother Earth. So it's the connection between the Sky Father and the Earth Mother. And in other Indo-European traditions, it's not, of course, Odin is a Germanic deity, but before that it was Tiu, or Deus Pita, which means Sky Father. And Indra stole or defeated his father and took the lightning bolt. In the Greek and the Roman tradition, it still continues with the original Indo-European idea that the Sky Father, Dieu Piter, Sky Father, and Zeus, which is D, which means Sky Father, they are still holding the lightning bolt. But it's this idea of the heaven and earth. Anyway, I'm getting off of topic here. So trolls would be thyrses. Thyrse is the negative, evil entity. That's the closest that the Norse get to demons. But trolls were said to live out in the forest, and they would seek to take humans captive. So that would be sort of like the nature spirit. Here's what I believe nature spirits really are. You are made up of three selves. You're not one self. You're made up of a community of three selves. You have your higher self, which is an entity in and of itself that sits around up here and tries to guide you if you listen to it. You have your lower self. I'm touching my navel center right now, which is your unconscious mind and your subconscious mind. All of the things that make you human, all of your human emotional reactions, all of your human personality. You think you're all the things that if people were to describe your personality, you think that's who you are. That's not. That's your lower self. And the thing that we're trying to accomplish in this life through spiritual practice is to get a clear communication between all three of the selves. The lower self, all of your unconscious issues, your childhood issues, your fears, your false self-sabotages, your past life issues, all of these things are inside your lower self, and your job is to become conscious of all those things and achieve a state of dynamic balance within yourself, which we could call enlightenment. And when you've done that, then your lower self graduates and eventually will become a human soul. But if you don't do the spiritual work to keep it going and to keep yourself connected. Sorry, I just got distracted here. If you don't do the spiritual work and you're driven by your fears and your ego and your greed and all of your reptilian brainstem issues, then what ends up happening is that you have all these unresolved, crazy emotions inside of you. And what happens is that when you die, your soul goes off to, where souls go, to the underworld or to Valhalla or wherever the heck it's going to go, or becoming reincarnated. Your lower self gets squished out onto the physical plane if you aren't balanced. And so those things become nature spirits. First, they become ghosts. So that's what a ghost is. Since we're going through sorry, you can't even see me anymore. If you're going through the four things there. So what a ghost is a ghost is not the soul of a human being. A ghost is not a soul that's trapped on the physical plane. The soul always finds out where it needs to go. It either goes to the underworld or it goes to wherever it's going to go. It doesn't mean that it can't come back and visit and be a part of what's happening here, but that's not what a ghost is. A ghost is not a trapped soul. If a soul is that screwed up that it would become a ghost, it's actually in the underworld. But what you do leave behind is your personality, your name, your issues. That's why, when some place is haunted, for instance, like where I grew up, there was a lighthouse on the ocean. And so there was this ghost of a woman, way back, some woman who committed suicide in the 20s. And so if you were there, you would see this white figure walking to the edge of the cliff and jumping off. And if you tried to talk to her, she would just walk right past you or walk right. She didn't see you. She didn't even know you were there. And the same kind of things, even when you do talk to ghosts, like, you find a ghost from 1800s or something, and he's looking for the treasure. And if you try and ask him what day it is, he'll say it's 1880, whatever it is. And if you try and tell him, no, you're a ghost, they get all upset. They don't like that. They don't want you to tell them what the real, they're trapped in 1880. That's not the soul of the person. That was their unresolved unconscious issue. If they're filled with greed over the treasure, then that's what that ghost is going to be all wrapped up in, is the treasure and all that. It doesn't know who it is. It's not a person. It's just your projection. What ends up happening to that ghost after hundreds of years of trying to get the treasure or trying to commit suicide or whatever it is, then eventually it forgets its connection to the person that it was attached to, and it goes back to nothing again, and then it becomes an earth spirit. And so these are now the earth spirits that you see connected to trees and connected to other things. Those can be the lower self of a human, and it goes to the earth to regenerate itself, to get its energy back. And then when it's finally worked through and gotten its energy back, then it will be given the opportunity to be a lower self again of a human being. So you really owe it to your lower self, your unconscious mind, all of that stuff. You really owe it to that essence to live a spiritual life and to be in balance with yourself and to find harmony and to work through all of your issues. Because if you don't, you squeeze that stuff out onto the earth and you can create a really nasty demon. So let's talk about poltergeists. So a poltergeist is what I just talked about now, except it's this will always be attached to somebody who's alive. So when somebody has some trauma that's unresolved, when you have let's say somebody is physically abused, what'll end up happening is if that person stuffs that down, which is a natural thing to do, and doesn't deal with that trauma, then they will be arrested at whatever age they were. And because that part of them is seeking to be dealt with, then that part of them, that part of their identity, their personality, especially like when they sleep, will come out of them. And it will do all kinds of things trying to get attention. That's why it knocks things over and it opens up doors and things and throws things around and screams and yells and attacks people. It's trying to get your attention so that you can deal with it. And so I've shared this story before, but this was one of the greatest explanations of a poltergeist. It was a family that had it was a man and a woman, and I believe that they also had a small child. Now the mother had been, I believe, sexually abused when she was 7, and it was really traumatizing. So much so that she totally forgot about it, wiped it out of her memory, and suppressed the memory. And so what was happening is that there was what they thought was a ghost of a little girl, a 7-year-old girl, was running around and causing all kinds of havoc and attacking the husband. Like physically attacking the husband and doing things like starting fires. But what would happen is that you'd hear this little girl giggling and running around and doing all that. And so they were so messed up about it and so frightened about it that they moved. But no matter where they moved to, this poltergeist came with them. Until they realized that this was the mother was this was her when she was 7. If I remember the story correctly, somebody was explaining to her what the little girl looked like, and then it became clear, and showed pictures. Like she showed pictures, if I remember, she showed pictures of herself when she was 7, and the husband says, "That's it. That's what I'm seeing. That's what's attacking me." And so then she was able to get conscious about what happened to her, and then the poltergeist disappeared. So poltergeists are always going to be associated with people. Now it's not that demons can't be poltergeists also, but like things like the Amityville Horror and things like that. You can have poltergeists there too, but it will always be associated with, if you look at the Amityville Horror, that was a place where somebody committed a bunch of murders. And so what ends up happening is that, if I remember, you see these stories in horror films where somebody, they think they're the other person, so they get possessed by the ghost of some person who killed their parents, and then they go crazy and they kill their parents. Well, this has to do with somebody's lower self. It's not the soul of a person that's trapped. It's the lower self of a person that gets squished out onto the physical plane, and that poor lower self is still running around doing whatever was unresolved with the person in question. And then over time, those poltergeists then become a nature spirit, and the earth cleanses them and heals them, and maybe after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, they can become a lower self again and try and move their way up. So this is my take on the 4 types of demons. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. I don't see any questions here. Yeah, so somebody else is talking about in Australia that there are places like that are built on Aboriginal burial grounds. So, I don't really know what those are. The one that I experienced was on a Native American burial ground. And I'd be interested to know if there are rituals that are done by those individuals that, they consciously are putting a protective spirit there. Like Native American burial grounds, you're just not supposed to go there. You just don't go, you just don't disturb that. And so are they protective? Are those the lower selves of those people that are still hanging around? Those are the kinds of questions that because there's a difference between your typical, Western European graveyard where there could be ghosts and things like that, and there might be some good or some bad, but it seems to be kind of neutral, whereas some of these indigenous burial grounds, they tend to always be really nasty places. So it makes me wonder what that's all about. All right. So again, looking for the questions. I don't see any here. Yeah. Well, you know what happens if you don't ask questions? I got to entertain you a little bit, or I got to sell you stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one of my dear friends come on here and talk to us for a little bit, and then I'll do a little business, and if there are any questions, I'll go ahead and take those. So be right back. Hey there, this is Arnold. I have a very important announcement. I command you to listen to me. This is Arnold Swears He's Bigger, and I'm here to tell you something very important. You must go to thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, subscribe and hit the bell button. I command you to do this. It's the most important thing you're ever going to do in your life. If you don't listen to me now and hear me later and go and subscribe, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to shame you in front of your whole family. I'm going to go to your school and I'm going to chastise you in front of your friends. I'm going to go to your church. I'm going to stand in front of the whole congregation and I'm going to tell people how stupid you are for not going and subscribing to this channel. I tell you now, it's the most important thing you're ever going to do. You have to go and subscribe right now, otherwise my head is going to explode. Do it now, I command you. All right, so we got a little word in there from Arnold. So the lockdown package. This is, as long as we've got this lockdown going on, I am giving away $3,214 worth of all of the services that I have control over. I can't control subscriptions, which is the thunderwizard.com page, and I can't control books and DVDs. So I would be happy to give those away for free as well. I just don't have control over how the money works on that. On the lockdown package, besides getting all of my stuff, all of my teachings, all of my certifications, all of my videos and courses, you also get 5 personal services for me that require connection via a Skype. So that takes 2 to 3 hours, and that's really what you're paying for. The rest of it is free. So this is my way of giving back. Hopefully we'll see an end to this shutdown and people will start going back to work and being able to make money and all that. Things are starting to lighten up here pretty good here in Australia. But until then, if you need to, you can go there. There's 3 ways if you want to create a business. I give you 3 ways to do things that I do if you want to start your own business while you're waiting around. And then we have thunderwizard.com, which is the subscription site. So apparently I don't share that enough. So when you go to thunderwizard.com, you'll see a bunch of different options. And the first one, the basic one, which is $25 a month, it gives you access to the Master Shamanism course. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos getting very specific in detail about shamanism, how to master shamanism, details that I don't go into on this channel. You can unsubscribe whenever you want, so if you try it out for a month and it doesn't work for you, just unsubscribe. And then there's the Manifestation Mastery course, which will go into detail about how to manifest and create your own life. Listen, if you were to talk to me 5 years ago, you would have talked to somebody who was deeply in debt, who was living in a studio house, and I didn't even know where my next meal was going to come from. Lots of times, day before rent, I didn't know where my rent was coming from. It was very challenging. I was committed to doing this work that I'm doing now and creating this teaching business. But it took me a few years before it got off the ground. And during that, I learned how to manifest. I really learned. And so the Manifestation Mastery course is ways that I can teach you how to do that as well. So outside of that, you can work with me one-on-one. I think those are filling up. And I think the only things that are available now is working with me twice a month. And you can see all those things at thunderwizard.com if you want to work with me. Courses.thunderwizard.com, my books and DVDs and everything else. Of course, subscribe, hit the bell button. All right, I've done all the business. Now, see if there are any questions. Dean Nevin's question, is the hula breath supposed to help clear out these entities, especially if you face the southwest? That's a great question. That wasn't the intention. And by the way, in case you're new to the channel, if you want to be initiated into this path that I am teaching, which you're free to be initiated into, the hula breath. Do that every day. That will connect you to the power of Mother Earth. That was a a meditation energy practice that was given to me by Mother Hulda herself, who is the earth herself. So yes, and that is why I have you facing southwest, because the direction of southwest is the direction of the earth, the deep earth. And when you face that direction, you're also facing the underworld. And so by doing this, what ends up happening is that since you're facing the southwest, what's behind you is the northeast. The northeast is the highest heavens. I can tell you from personal experience, the one thing you do not want to do is you do not want to summon the energies of the southwest and bring them into our reality. You don't want to do that. That is where all of your unconscious garbage is. That's where all of the demons are. That's where all of your personal problems and issues, things that need to stay in your unconscious mind. You can meditate on them and become conscious of them, but you definitely don't want to invoke them and bring them into our world. At the very least, what will happen is you will find that you will run into all kinds of problems with people in your life. So when you're facing the southwest, behind you is the northeast, and it does go like this. The southwest is the deepest, goes down, and the northeast is the highest energy. So it keeps the lid on the underworld, your unconscious mind, and that's where these things need to stay. You process them, you meditate on them, but you don't want to act on them. So that's what happens when you do the hula breath. When you go and look that up and you start doing that, you're actually taking energy from the heavens and bringing them down, and so that the heavenly energy goes down into the earth and empowers the earth. Eventually what happens is you have a two-way energy flow where energy is moving down and at the same time up through you. And yeah, it's the most all-purpose empowering energy practice that I have, and I recommend that everybody, if you're brand new, do that. If for nothing else, if that's one of those exercises, if you did that exercise for the rest of your life, it would take care of everything. You want to achieve enlightenment? Do the hula breath for an hour a day. Do the hula breath for an hour a day for a year, and then come talk to me and tell me that nothing's happened in your life. You will see huge changes. It will cleanse out your energy, balance the energy in your body. It'll heal your body. But yes, that's the other thing that it would do, is that it would clear out any negative entities over time. And then Dean Evans comes up with another question, and he says, would you consider negative thought patterns and habits baby versions of these negative entities? I don't know that I would go that far, because thoughts are just that. Thoughts are reactions. One of the things I have problems with the what is that called again? The secret, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. The thing that says that if you think positive thoughts, positive things come to you. And if you think negative thoughts, negative things come to you. I find that to be really destructive. I find that to be really demeaning, because that's what dysfunctional, abusive parents do. When you're a little kid and you're crying, if you have somebody who loves you, they go, oh, come here, and they hug you and they say, what's wrong? Tell me everything. Tell me what's wrong. And as the kid cries and talks about all of their feelings, the parent takes care of them and lets them know it's okay to have their negative feelings. It's okay to have their negative thoughts. It's okay to be afraid. No, it's okay. What matters is what you do. And then you start to learn that your feelings are okay, and you go out in the world, and this is called being mature. You can have all of your negative feelings and you take positive action. But the law of attraction, as it's being taught, says that you have to monitor all of your negative thoughts and all of your negative feelings. And if you have negative thoughts, then negative things will happen. So you're asking about negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are just that. They're thoughts. They're reactions to things. That's all they are. They don't mean anything. They only mean something if you act on them. If you act on a negative thought, then it becomes a negative pattern, and you start to create a negative pattern. So I wouldn't say negative thought patterns are baby versions of entities, but they are part of the process. When you indulge in these negative thoughts and you indulge in actions associated, like if you were shamed as a little kid and so you're feeling shameful, One of the ways people act out on their shame is they attack others. I mean, that's how you know somebody is full of self-directed negativity, is the first thing they do is they look to attack somebody else, especially if that person is acting in the way that they want to be themselves. This is called unconscious projection. You project your self-directed negativity on somebody else. So this is why whenever somebody comes onto my channel, I don't know anything about them, they come onto my channel and start telling me I'm doing this wrong and I'm teaching that wrong and I'm this and I'm a fraud and all that. I already know. There's just nothing to be said. I already know that they want to be a teacher. They may not want to be exactly like me, but they want to be doing something similar to me, and that's why they're attacking me, because they, on an unconscious level, don't believe they deserve it. They think they're a fraud. They think all of these negative things. And so when they see me, the first initial stimulation is it makes them want to do that same thing, and then their unconscious negative thought pattern kicks in and says, no, you're a worthless piece of crap, and then they project that onto me. I know it every time. So that's why I say to people, don't waste your time arguing with me. Make your own channel, write your own books. But see, I do that on purpose because I know that they're not going to do that. And, I know that because I'll say to people, why don't you write your own books? Why don't you make your own videos? And they'll always say, I don't need to make videos. It means that they don't want to follow through. They don't want to follow through on what they're attacking me for. So that starts with that. That's an example of indulging in negative thoughts that creates a negative thought pattern. But just having a negative thought in and of itself is not, it's just a thought. We all have negative thoughts. All of us. We're filled with yin and yang. We're filled with positive and negative. We're filled with love and hate. Whenever you have an interaction with another person, in your navel center, you're always going back and forth between loving them and hating them. This is part of being human. What makes you mature is that you know how to take actions on that, which creates more loving actions, which creates more loving karma, which creates more love coming back to you, and it creates a cycle of love. And so you start to learn that there's a payoff in listening to and acting on the loving feelings that you have. And when you don't have loving feelings, you learn how to take contrary action and not act on those impulses. So the sad part is when somebody doesn't have a healthy sense of self, they act on their impulses. So when they have a lot of negative impulses, they act on them and then they justify them, and that's when you end up with narcissistic personality disorder and all those kinds of things. By the way, before I forget, I have another channel which is starting to take off. I didn't intend for this to happen, but it did. So if you are somebody that has been in a relationship with somebody who has borderline personality disorder, or if you know people who have it, or if you yourself think you might have it, I have let's see, it's called, what the heck is it called? Let me see if I can tell you the exact name of the channel. But it's starting to take off. I mean, it gets far more views than, let's see, far more views than this one does, with, let's see, let's try this, dating a borderline, see if it comes up. There it is. It's called Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup. That's a big word, I'll write it down. But in case you know anybody you're interested in that, my other channel, because that's exactly what I did. I survived being in a relationship with a woman who had borderline personality disorder and the resulting breakup. So you can go check that out if you want. All right. So I think I answered your question, Dean Evans. Question again: is there any connection between the 8 directions and the 8 phases of the moon? I haven't investigated that. That would be my instinct says there has to be. But to be honest with you, I haven't done any research at all. So my hat's off to you. Go for it. But let us know what you find. One of the things I love about this work that I'm doing, and all the books that I've written. By the way, if you're on my channel and you haven't bothered to read my books, you don't really know what I'm teaching. If you're on my channel and you haven't put the effort into watching all of the channels, or watching the videos, I got a ton of videos. If you haven't put the effort in, you don't know what I teach. I recently was looking at something on somebody else's channel from somebody that I recognized who used to come on these live Q&As all the time. And was somebody who I think asked a lot of questions, and I thought I had a good connection with the guy. But, was basically bad-mouthing me and saying, why I'm not his teacher and all that. But he basically just volunteered that he didn't put the time and effort to watch the videos. So I'm sorry if you guys come on here and you ask me questions and my response to you is, watch my video about that. Type that in. So let me tell you what to do. When you go, if you have something that you want to hear me talk about, there's a good chance I've talked about it. The way you can find that out is you go onto my channel page. If you don't know how to do that, go into YouTube and just type in Thunder Wizard or thunderwizard.com, DOTCOM. My channel page will come up. On my channel page, you can go there, and not in the, if you're on a laptop or a desktop, next to where it says About, near the menu below, you can click on the magnifying glass and another search bar will come up. Type in whatever you want and see if I talk about it. And then there will be hours and hours and hours of me going in depth on that subject. So sometimes people ask me a question that's not related to the subject I'm talking about, and I say, go watch one of my other videos. I was reading this guy basically say that he was just too lazy and he didn't want to do that, and I'm an asshole for, telling you to watch one of my other videos. And it's just, seriously, guys, it's, look, these Q&As are great, and I'm really glad that they're here. But if you really want to get something out of my channel, that's the place to go. And to put the time and effort into it, So again, the more time and effort you put into everything I teach, the more you're going to get out of these Q&As, and the more you're going to stimulate me to want to talk about it, because it shows me that you're paying attention and that you're just not wasting your time, and I happen to be the one guy who's live and you got nothing else to do. You know what I mean? All right, so I don't see any more questions here. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say about this. I was going to make a video about the difference between demon possession and mental illness. I will say this is something I should say. When it comes to my experience with humans interacting with demons, I would say that probably 95%, and that's being conservative, 95% of people who think that they're being attacked by demons, that they're interacting with demons, aren't. They just have a lot of serious mental and emotional issues. And so they're dealing with their own narcissism. They're dealing with their own fears. Especially people who think that they're, being harassed by demons because they have, sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is a normal thing. It just means you're having a nightmare. You're having a nightmare and you're trying to wake up. And whatever fear is in your unconscious, when you open your eyes, you're going to see it as though it's in front of you. And it's not. You're just in this phase between being asleep and being awake. People who don't get sleep, if you don't sleep for a couple of days, you start to hallucinate. And that is, your brain is trying to dream. So what's interesting about sleep is that, we, sleep for 8 hours a night, and, you're not healthy, you don't feel rested. Your physical body doesn't really need 8 hours of sleep. What needs 8 hours of sleep is your mind. Your mind needs to get rid of all of the garbage it's picked up all day. Because when you're going around throughout your day, your subconscious mind is picking up every single detail, everything everybody said, every thought you had, everything that you did. It's picking up on all of it. And so when you sleep, one of the first things that happens when you dream is that your brain is going through the events of the day and getting rid of all the information it doesn't need. And so you don't remember those dreams. But then there's the dreams of, what's happening in your unconscious, your fantasies, your fears, things like that. And your mind needs to work through that, because if you don't, when you wake up, you won't have a cohesive sense of self. That's why people have real major emotional issues, have a hard time sleeping, because it's really hard for them to process all of the things that are going on with them. So that's what sleep paralysis is. You're just waking up and you're in a half dream, half awake state. So you're seeing in front of your eyes whatever it was that you're afraid of, and you think it's some demon choking you to death. And what's really going on is that your body's keeping you paralyzed, because if you weren't paralyzed when you were dreaming, you'd hurt yourself. It's just that simple. So point is that most of the people who think that they're being attacked by demons aren't. And I can find out really quick just by talking to them what's really going on. And it's usually because they're in denial about something within themselves. And it sounds really simple for me to say it, and I'm saying it, in a cavalier way. But the truth is that underneath it, there are major serious problems going on, and they're blaming it on something outside of them. And so they create demons. Having said that, you can create demons that way. You can create, as I said, poltergeists and other things. It's you not looking at yourself. The reason why I stopped doing exorcisms was because after doing it for a couple of years, I came to realize that those people really just needed therapy, and that I was merely just sort of giving them a little lag time. Because what happened is every single person, except for the first guy, every single person that I did an exorcism on had been physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused. There was some major trauma and abuse that happened to them. And so, while I'm fighting with the demon and the demon is coming up and doing whatever, and then I'm able to, make the demon go away, then the person, it would be like the person would come back to the forefront, and I would, while I had them, because I knew the demon was going to come back, I'd say, who harmed you? Who do you need to forgive? Who hurt you? And there would always be my mom, my dad, my grandfather, Uncle so-and-so. There was somebody that really harmed them, and I said, you have to forgive them. And if they said no, the demon would come back every time. So I learned over time that what the demon was doing was that the demon was their way of protecting themselves from major serious pain that they hadn't looked at. And so if somebody is demon possessed, what has happened is that they have sent out an energetic invitation for some negative entity to come and harass them, so that they would be distracted from the real pain. And when I saw that, and after, each time I would sit them down after I'd done they forgave Uncle so-and-so, and then I could cast the demon out. Then I would sit them down and I would say, listen, you need help. You need to stop, and they're usually lots of times, doing a lot of drugs and things like that. I said, listen, you got to stop doing drugs. If they were religious, I'd say you need to start working with your pastor or your priest, and you need to start going and talking to them and getting your spiritual life in order. If they weren't religious, I would say you need to go to counseling, you need to see a therapist, you need to work through this, you need to get your life together. At that time I was really, really religious, so I would say you need to give your life to God. But that's really what I meant by that, is you got to get some help. And I said, because if you don't, what's going to happen is it's going to come back. And there's actually one phrase in the New Testament which I do agree with, and this is, somebody was asking Jesus about what happens when he casts out demons, and he says, of course I don't believe in Jesus, but I believe wherever this came from, I believe this is accurate, that Jesus supposedly said, when the demon is cast out, it wanders the desert for, I forget how long, a week or a month, or I forget how many days it was, 10 days or something like that. It wanders the desert, empty places for X amount of days, and then it finds like 4 demons or 3 demons more powerful than itself, and then it comes back. First, what it says is it comes back, it wanders the desert and then comes back and finds that its home, meaning the person, is empty, meaning that they can't get in. So they go out and they find more demons stronger than themselves, and they come back, and then the last state of the man is worse than the first. That's absolutely correct. What I was trying to tell these people is if you don't start getting counseling for your unresolved issues, then the need for you to be distracted from your pain is going to be so strong that you're going to attract demons again. And I saw it every time. Whatever the time frame was, and partly because I said it, but that X amount of time would go by, and sure enough, demons would come back and possess them again because they were back doing drugs, or they were back doing whatever the hell it was that they were doing. By the way, drugs, I'm just telling you, all drugs, even shamanic power plants, all of them diminish your external energy. They destroy your wei qi, your boundary. You have an aura, a protective shield around you all the time of energy. Drugs, alcohol destroys it. That's why in traditional, like Native American type shamanism, you have to do things like ayahuasca and mushrooms and peyote. You have to do that in a ritual setting with a master shaman. And a real master shaman will look at you. They won't just let anybody come and take the medicine. If they can see in your aura that you have a karmic destiny with it, they'll let you in. But then they're doing all of the prayers and all of the chants and all of the songs to keep your aura intact while you're going through it, so that you won't be opening yourself up to negative entities. So people, like Westerners, are not fit for this because they don't understand this. They've got major serious problems. If you're a Westerner and you're going to South America to take ayahuasca, 90% chance it's because there's something broken inside of you and you're trying to get yourself fixed, and that's the wrong reason for doing it. And even then, if somebody's going to take your money down there and do a ritual for you, he's probably more interested in the money than he is in helping you. If you're doing it on your own and I've heard about this and I've heard about that, and you're doing this shit on your own and you're tripping out and thinking you're accomplishing something, you're not. You're only poisoning your body. You're destroying your energy, your energy field, and you're inviting all kinds of negative entities into your life. That's just the fact. You don't have to like it. That's just the fact. I've been doing this a long time. I know what I'm talking about. So that's why I don't recommend anybody do that. The Taoists and the East Indians, except for those that smoke ganja, that's a whole other thing. They came to the realization that they could get the release of DMT in their brain and open up the pineal and pituitary without taking any external chemicals. And in fact, it would strengthen your energy. You'd open up the pineal and the pituitary, release DMT naturally, and strengthen your aura. That's why I suggest people do Qigong or do Kundalini Yoga or mantra or those kinds of things. Stay away from that other stuff. You're asking for trouble. All right, let's see. I've probably pissed off a lot of people, and let's see here. Any questions? Again, I'm only interested in the questions. Dan Randy, if you have a question, write the word question, otherwise I might miss it. I don't want to miss your question. How do you deal with the trolls? I have tried many methods, but to no result. They always come back stronger and in numbers. They never end. How do I slay them all at once and for all? It means you've got unresolved emotional issues. You get counseling. Go find out what happened. What happened to you as a child, maybe in a past life, but you have unresolved issues. If they're coming back, it means that you're inviting them back in. You're easy prey, which means that you're asking to be discarded from what your real issues are. So you can get counseling with me, you can get counseling with somebody, but go deep, go do some counseling. Find out what the hell is really going on with you. You are attracting them. That's the bottom line. Trying to slay them once and for all like you're a victim and they've targeted you. It doesn't work like that. Human beings are the most powerful beings on this planet. All entities in the universe wish they could become human, because humans have the ability to overcome this limited experience of limitation and achieve unlimited power. And all of the gods want to have that. They want to learn that. We forget that. So we think we're victims of circumstance, but we're not. Don Randy, here's one thing that you can do. Go get my book, The Shamanic Secret Command to a Perfect Life. You can also watch me again. You guys are wondering, why am I doing all this clickbait stuff? Why am I doing all these videos about, the flame wars and all of that, all the reptilian stuff? I'm doing that because I'm trying to keep this channel alive. I put really, really valuable information on here, and I've read my books on here. Like, there's the Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward, the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. It gets almost no views. I do 6 hours of marathon stuff on the 8 directions and shamanic journeying and all that. Nobody watches those. They watch the flame wars. They watch all that stuff. So, go and watch those videos. There's really real power there. I would love to see this channel take off, and I would love to see it take off based on what's important, the really important things that I teach. So, by the way, if you're one of those and it frustrates you and you want to get to the real stuff, then go and subscribe at thunderwizard.com. That's where you get to see, I just focus on the teaching of the shamanism and all that. I don't do any of the clickbait or the entertainment. So if you really want to, that's where I'm going to start doing all the real shamanism videos from now on. Is going to be there. I'm still going to come on and do it on the free channel as well, but it's frustrating and it's disheartening for me because I've put a lot of time and effort into this teaching, and it saddens me that it's not going anywhere, at least seemingly for the moment. All right, what else? So Justin Wilson, again, if you got a question, please write the word question so I don't miss it. You asked, what do you do if you are tired of this garbage that you see in life and you want something greater? Well, then you need some kind of spiritual discipline. This is when you work with it. You find a teacher. You find a kung fu teacher, or you find a yoga teacher, or you find something. And that will give you something to work towards. It's it's a really big question. That's basically what this channel is about. So as you said, put some time and effort into this. And if you want, go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at the lowest level, and then you can go through A, B, C, D, F, and G. I take you all the way through as though you were an apprentice, and I teach you from the beginning how to follow the path of the shaman. Okay, what else? Ricky Green question, could the rioting in America right now be due to the negative energy for so many years? The oppression? So Ricky, I'm an American, as you know. I've been living in Australia for the past year. I hope that continues. I'm still waiting to hear from my visa. I've just applied. I had a really great setup where I could just come and go, and pretty much live here indefinitely. And then the border closure changed all that. So if I leave the country, I wouldn't get back in. So hopefully I get to stay. But there's an assumption in there is that, the oppression. What oppression? Who's oppressing you? Nobody's oppressing you. I've lived 55 years in the United States. And, unless you're, the only people that could get away with that, say that, might be, minorities. And even that, it's getting, there's a lot more opportunities for minorities now than there were. I know there's still racism. Holy crap, the stuff I've heard about how they deal with Aboriginals here is really awful. Same kind of crap we did to the Indians. But nobody's oppressing you. Don't buy into that selfish pussy bullshit that you hear on some of the conservative news channels, and the fucking pussies that are trying to tell you that you're a victim and that somebody in government is doing it to you. It's pure nonsense. I got to tell you something. Americans are lazy little children. They're self-entitled, uneducated, narcissistic little children. I mean, I felt that when I was living there. I'm here now and I'm watching. It's just ridiculous. It's now become vogue in America not to go to school and study. It's become vogue not to become educated. That's why I have so little empathy for people who, want to talk about, the elites are doing it to get off your ass and do something, man. Go work. Ricky Green, I'm not trying to talk to you. I don't know you well enough to know if this is you or not. But, when I see people protesting in the U.S. Over some nonsense like that, I want to say, get up off your ass and go work. Go create something yourself. What I find ironic is that Americans want to complain about, the government not giving them freedom. And these are the same people who do things like work for giant corporations, like they work as, in the coal mines or something. So they work for some big company and they want some big company to give them a job. And yet they'll go and protest about, not having enough rights and having to pay taxes. And it's just like, get up off your ass and do something. All right. So, or to get upset, like let's say people want to shut down coal mining because it's dangerous to the environment. And coal miners who've never done anything else will yell and scream and talk about those damn liberals that want to take away my job. And it's like, what do you mean? Is that the only fucking job there is in the entire world, is to be a coal miner? Go learn some other trade. Go learn another skill. Go do something else. Take responsibility for your life. Anyway, so I mean, I'm watching all of that happen, and it's just ridiculous. The United States, when the coronavirus hit and the pandemic hit, the United States had a choice. It could do what New Zealand and Australia had done, which is lock everything down and be really strict about it. And they didn't do that. So the only other option is to let everything go, is to do what Sweden did and just leave everything open and let old people and sick people die. Because that's the choice that they made, and just get group immunity. That's the only other option. And what the US is doing right now is right smack dab in the middle. It's doing a half-ass lockdown, and people who don't want to do the lockdown are doing this, and they're complaining and screaming and crying. And you end up having the worst scenario where nothing happens except a lot of people are getting sick and there isn't herd immunity. So you either have to go for herd immunity or you have to starve it out. Those are the only two options you have. The United States is not built for taking, Americans don't like to be told what to do. They don't want anybody who has authority telling them they can't do this or they can't do that. They're too childish for that, which is why they come up with this, it's all a hoax. That's coming from people who just don't want to be told what to do. And, so that's what this is all about. So the people are protesting and all of that is because America doesn't know what the fuck it wants. It can't discipline itself. So that's fine. You don't want to discipline yourself, then just forget about the lockdown altogether. That's my take on it. And it's sad because, I've seen it work here. The lockdown worked here, and it worked in New Zealand. They starved it out. And Australia is almost there. It's going to be there very soon. It's going to starve it out. The thing that worries me, though, if I was Australia government and they were able to starve out the virus, it means that, you don't want to bring in a lot of people who have it. So I would be like, I'm not going to let people from the United States into Australia. They've got the worst death toll on the planet. They can't come here. That's the thing that makes me sad. Anyway, so I got off on my personal thing. When you write down oppression, that's going to push my buttons. You're not oppressed, Ricky. Nobody's oppressing you. Look at my life. I mean, I have the best fucking life I could ever want, and I didn't have any handouts. Nobody did anything for me. I created my own business out of nothing, a business that didn't exist. I created a kind of business that nobody else had ever done. It's because I was just completely committed, and I wasn't going to accept being a victim. I just refused. So what's going on? Why is there rioting in America? Because Americans are just selfish little children. They've been, they're like the Roman Empire. They're just like Nero. The reason the Roman Empire fell is because the exact reason that America can't get its fucking shit together. It's the most powerful country in the world, and people are so xenophobic, and they're so just wrapped up. How many people in America even know all the? I mean, go find your average American high school kid, sit them down, point them to a map that doesn't have the country's name on it, and have them tell you where all the countries are around the world. They can't do it. Sit an American down and then put a map in front of them of the Middle East and say, okay, tell me the different sects. Where are the different sects of Islam? They won't be able to do it. They don't know the difference. And there's this pride on being, we're pro-America, but that's great, except that you don't have the first fucking clue what's going on in the rest of the world. And then you elect people into the government who are normal people who also don't have a fucking clue what's going on in the rest of the world. I have real doubts that America is going to last. I think this is the end of the Roman Empire. I know I'm going to piss a lot of you off, but I don't really fucking care anymore. Do you guys want to grow, or do you want to be children? Anyway, Ricky Green, I'm not saying you're any of those things. It's just that word, oppression, that really pushes a button in me. And I want to encourage you to drop that. Just drop that whole thing. Nobody's oppressing you. Even if there were, let's just say that there are, because there are oppressive regimes. I mean, say that, talk about American oppression. Say that to somebody living in North Korea. Right? Now you're going to find out what fucking oppression really is. You're not oppressed. Anyway. Could it be the concept of an egregore where we have created this? No, I mean, it's just people are just pissed off because they don't like being told what to do. It's just that simple. That's why they're so pissed off. They just don't like being told what to do. Let's see, what else? The oppression of minorities. I don't think that's what's going on with that. The oppression of minorities is what happened with the Los Angeles riots. That was the result. Now, that was what happened was, the trigger for that was really quite nonsensical. But, looking at it, what's his name? Rodney, I forget his name. Anyway. Yeah, the guy got his ass kicked by a bunch of cops, and you look at it, and he didn't deserve that. But what it was is it had built up for so many decades that it just finally exploded. And I lived in Los Angeles most of my life, and I can tell you for a fact that the Los Angeles cops back then were fucking assholes. I mean, I got pulled over a bunch of times and got threatened to, get thrown into jail for no reason, and I'm white, so I know that they targeted minorities and other people and were assholes. So I don't think that the riots in the U.S. now is about minority oppression, but I'm not a minority, so what the hell do I know? Let's see, what else? Anyway, sorry about that, Ricky. Yeah, you were on the wrong side of my button that got pushed. I know you didn't mean that. See what else? No, I don't see anything else. Rodney King, yeah, that's the thing. I lived through that. I was there. I was actually, that's when I had my theater company in Hollywood. And Hollywood then, I don't know what it's like now, but then Hollywood was not a safe place to be. There was a lot of gangs. In fact, I escaped a few different times, with, not getting my ass kicked. And a couple of scary scenarios just walking down the street. But we were rehearsing a play in our theater, and I had co-founded a theater, and so we weren't watching any of the news or anything like that. And people were coming in, and somebody says, "Hey, have you guys watched the news lately? This and this is going on, and there's fires breaking out." And so I lived in West Los Angeles, and so in order to get back home, I had to drive through, and it was really scary. I had to take back streets and drive through, people throwing this and fires exploding, and I had to sort of, get myself through some really nasty areas before I could finally get home. And then, in West LA, watching the fires getting closer and closer and closer, and the freeways were packed because people were trying to get the hell out of LA. It was really frightening. That's a result of minority oppression. But to be honest, I don't really know what's going on. I just think that Americans are just spoiled little kids. Anyway, yeah, so I don't see any more questions here. I've done my business, so I'm sure I've lost a few lost a few subscribers over this. Anyway, that's it for me. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled, and what you can do in the comment sections of videos, if there's something that you want me to talk about, ask me to do a video on it. I may or may not do it, but I'd really like to see which direction this channel wants to go, and I'd really like this channel to get the popularity I think it deserves. So help me out with that. What kind of stuff would you like to see me talk about? Let me see. Did I miss a question up here? Jesus Keen. Wait, let me see here. Oh, there's more questions I missed. And you're going to push my buttons here. Javier Rotes, question. I'm going to tear you a new one. Question, the pedophile elite. So there was that one guy, whatever his name was, who was a pedophile and had some kind of ring. He existed. There's pedophiles everywhere. There's pedophiles in poor neighborhoods. There's pedophiles in rich neighborhoods. They're all over the place. I have a real problem with you needing to turn the elite into the pedophile elite. I haven't even got to the eating babies part. But I have a real problem with that because that is just such a victim mentality. It means, I'm going to tell you what it means, Javier. You're new to my channel, so you don't know this. So this is, you've stepped into a bear trap here. But the fact that you need to see the elite, you don't even know who they are. Like we know of the one guy, I forget his name, Epstein. That was a human being. We know who he is. That was somebody. But you need to see the whole elite this way. What that tells me about you is that you have a victim mentality. It means that you don't see yourself as having the ability to have your own life, create your own life, which is one of the things that I teach. And you're looking for something to justify your poverty, your lack of whatever success you do or don't have. Because now anybody who becomes successful becomes the elite, and they're automatically, part of the reptilian this, or they're a pedophile. So I vociferously am going to knock the shit out of that. Grow up, man. Not everybody who's successful and is a celebrity is a pedophile elite. All right? So I'm not going to co-sign that for you. Eating babies never happened. That, go look at Pizzagate. The guy that went into the pizza parlor looking for the underground caves where Hillary Clinton is eating babies. He never found it because it's not there, because it's bullshit. It's made up by just a bunch of losers who can't get their shit together, and they want to blame successful people for their problems. There's always been rich people who steal from you, and that's why, again, these are the same people who are telling you, yeah, it's reptilians, yeah, it's these aliens. It's not actual CEOs of big companies who want to make all the money off of you and at your expense. No, it's the politicians, and it's Beyonce, and it's those people. They didn't make it because they're good at what they do or worked really hard. You're being victimized by the unnamed Illuminati. So, sorry, my friend, welcome to my channel, but I think that's pure horseshit. It's not due to any demon. The fact that people believe that, whether you believe that or not, but people believe that because they're just screwed up and lazy and they can't get up off their ass and just make something out of their life. Boy, do I sound like an old fart now. Mr. Scott says, you're indoctrinated as hell. I'm out of here. Bye. See ya. See ya. Jesus Keen question, have you personally found value in samatha meditation? I don't know anything about it, but let me once again say, you'll get a better response from me if you ask about what I teach. Asking me about other traditions and other teachers, it's a little offensive because it means you're not putting the time and effort to see what I teach and practice the meditations that I teach. But I've never heard of it, so I can't talk about it. And again, you're asking me, and it puts me in a position to potentially badmouth another practice. Because if I had tried it and I had a bad, experience with it, now I'm going to say something bad about it. And, that doesn't serve you, is my point. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't really serve you when you're trying to work with me. See what else? Okay, now I think I've got all that. Javier Rodriguez, Pizzagate is fake. You didn't know that? You didn't know that Pizzagate was fake? Stop watching all that bullshit. Stop watching, whatever the Flame Wars, or the Info Wars. Stop watching all that horseshit, man. There's nothing real about it. Learn how to find real news. That is not real news. Yeah, it's fake. You don't know what happened? Some guy showed up there with a gun because he had been told, like you have, that Hillary Clinton and other guys were underneath that particular pizza parlor and were sacrificing children, and there was a pedophile ring. And he went in there with a gun to force them to take him down underneath into the basement. And he finally found out that there was nothing there. And he even admitted to it. How the fuck do you not know that? Seriously, Javier, how the fuck do you actually believe that that shit exists? What is going on in your mind that you feel so victimized that you honestly believe that exists? There wasn't one moment where you thought that maybe that was a little crazy? Maybe that's a little insane? You don't find that just incredible that there are like 4% of the population of the United States believes that that's real? Do you know how many thousands of people believe that? There isn't a part of you that just goes, what the hell am I doing? Seriously, are you that uneducated? Are you that disempowered that you honestly believe that? Just for a second. There isn't a bit of common sense that tells you that that's not real? Seriously, that everybody in power, every single person who is in office, who's a politician, every single celebrity, everybody who has a lot of money and success, the only way they got there is because they're a reptile and they feed off of infants? Seriously? Of course it's fake, man. Come on. All right, what else? What do you mean, did I read the emails from Hillary? Who gives a shit? They're fucking emails. Do you have any idea how many emails Donald Trump has? Do you have any idea the shit that he's doing that's not following any protocols? Grow the fuck up, man. Grow a pair. Don't be such a pussy. People who believe that are pussies. You didn't know that? Grow a pair. I say that to you because I care, man. It's really sad. Because people like you, if you believe that, then you are going to vote into office people who are slinging this shit at you, telling you that you're that you're weak, that you're a victim, that they're doing it to you. I'm going to save you. They're doing it to you, and they're going to come in. You know what they're going to do? They are going to create laws that protect rich people. Not, the very people you think that Donald Trump, you think you voted him in to protect you. Who do you think he's working for? Wake the fuck up, man. All right, let's see what else. All right, I don't see any more questions here, so I'm going to let it go. Getting angry makes my nose itch. All right, anything else? I don't see anything else. All right, guys, that's it for me. I've just been babbling. Now I'm just causing trouble. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take a walk on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. Not this particular beach, but one just like it. I'm gonna go take a walk. Whoops. I'm gonna go take a walk on that beach right now. It's now 1:48 in the afternoon. Maybe I'll go swimming. Maybe I'll go surfing. I don't think there are any waves though. All right, that's it for me, guys. Talk to you guys very soon. Whoops. All right, question. Dean Evans threw a question last minute. How do you think the flat earthers will explain the recent manned U.S. space mission? They will explain it the way they've explained everything else. They'll say it's all CGI and that it's faked. And for some reason that nobody can come up with, that for some reason NASA spends billions and trillions of dollars just to deceive the average idiot who can't pick himself up to go to a science class and learn something. Yeah, that's all. They'll just say it's fake. Oh, God. Guys, get the fuck over it. Do you really, Erica Gilvin? Come on. Let's just say you're right. Hillary is responsible for the Benghazi event. Let's just say you're right. So what? You know that you're using that as an excuse to bolster whatever fucking burr you have in your ass about the other party and how they're doing it to you. So fucking what? Should we go and do we really, I mean, do you want to go one for one? Do you want to go Donald Trump for Hillary Clinton? Do you really want to do that? You don't give a shit. I don't believe you give a flying fuck about the truth. I think you have an agenda and you wanna, you know, I'm now of the opinion you've got a victim mentality. Who gives a shit if Hillary is a liar? So fucking what? So fucking what? She understands the three branches of government. Yellowface doesn't even understand how government works. I've lost, I mean, it just brings up such bile within me. The willful ignorance of seeking out the information that will justify your victim mentality and continue to vote in people who will pass laws to take away your health and your freedom and your money. It's on you, man. It's on you. You know, you want to make her, you know, she's not even in office anymore. I mean, she's not even, she was, you know, she lost the election 4 years ago. Why the fuck did you even bring her up? See what I mean? She's old news. You brought her up because you need her. You need that devil so that you can be manipulated. All that anybody has to do is mention Hillary Clinton and mention something about whatever, and the Democrats are going to take away your blah, 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 and you're off and running, and they can bypass you and fuck you over, and you'll never see it coming. And I have no sympathy for you when it happens. Yeah, 4 men died. Great. Why? How long ago was that? And what the fuck does that have to do with right now? All of your freedoms that are being taken away from you right now. I have such little respect for you right now. I mean, I've lost all of it. Who else do we want to talk about? You want to talk about Nixon? He's dead. We can talk about Nixon, talk about all the shit that Nixon did. It's not relevant right now. Wake the fuck up. What she did 4 years ago, 6 years ago is not relevant right now. Grow up. What is happening to you right now? You don't know. You know why you don't know? Because you don't want to know. and you go and watch InfoWars and you go and watch Fox News, and whoever else will still keep telling you about Hillary Clinton and Benghazi so that you can stay in the past. And while you're doing that, the people who have the power and the money are fucking you over, and you're going to thank them for it. It's on you. Whatever happens, it's on you. All right. That's it. I'm done. All right, guys. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to take a walk on the beach.